Welcome to this episode, The First Time Leap, where we'll be discussing identity shifts, hidden team drivers, and common pitfalls of professionals making the leap into management. And today's special guest is Mr. Alan Morley, a recognized expert in leadership education, a published author with 3 more books on the way, the podcaster of Listen, Learn, Grow, Conversations for Everyday Growth, and founder of Leadership Excellence, and a 2026 award winner, and not just once, but twice, receiving awards for Organizational Behavior Change Innovator of the Year and Leadership Development Innovation. I'm Brad Turner, founder of Educating Mindy, on a mission to share real leadership experience. Alan, published books, published podcasts, many years of experience in the field, certainly as education as a background. Are you a llama trainer as well?
I've always thought about it, but to be fair, they do scare me, so I thought I'd go for alpacas instead.
Of course, we're here to talk about your book, so I'm going to draw a focus away from the llama training. We're here to talk about your publication of From Contributor to Leader, essentially. You talk about your book in a very specific way. You've got moments in there that you recap, you've got frameworks, you've got solutions. So I want to focus on that today. There's a particular part I want to start with where you're talking about a very specific moment on a train into London, overhearing 2 young lads talking about a failed first leadership application. Can you take us back there? What did you hear? Why did it hit you so hard?
It's a great question, and to be fair, I think we almost need to go back even before that moment, because it's been said to me for many, many years by my wife, my mum, my siblings. They've always kind of said that you talk so much that actually you should write a book. But I'd never kind of really known what to write about. I mean, I was too young. I hadn't done enough in my life to do an autobiography. So I'd never really kind of put my finger on what it is I should talk about. And that moment on the train was that eureka moment for me. So I kind of realized that I've been doing leadership development, behavioral change for a long time. So actually, why not kind of give back to the people out there? And I was sitting on a packed train going into London, and you sometimes can't help but overhear conversations. And these 2 lads were sitting next to me. And the thing that really got me, there was a sense of annoyance with them. So I could hear when they were talking that actually this one individual felt he was right for the job. He could do it. He'd shown his abilities, but to be told that he didn't have the experience really kind of hit hard for him. But even though I didn't know him, it hit hard for me as well, because I've seen it time and time again that people don't get the job because they don't have experience. But my argument always is, well, how do you get the experience if you don't get the chance? It's a really kind of difficult thing. So rather than standing up, as I said in the book, and shouting, "I will support you," because that would have been very weird standing at 6'8", I just kind of decided that actually the book is the way forward. And literally as soon as it happened, I still had about 30 minutes left on the train. So I opened up my notebook and I just started scribbling down some ideas, got the chapters. So I actually had the chapters ready to go by the time I got into London, and then it was a case of putting them all together. But it was just hearing that experience they had, which I've come across myself personally, but I've also seen it in so many people that I work with.
You're absolutely right. I've experienced myself firsthand, and this is exactly what HR forums are saying out there at the moment continuously. I mean, this is not just something new, this is something ongoing. But there are 2 elements to this. I mean, firstly, as I mentioned, that HR specialists are focusing on this point. We have Forbes announcing these points. We have CIPD announcing and reporting these things. These same issues are reoccurring continuously. Do you think it's about leaders not being set up correctly in terms of given the skills to nurture their teams around?
I think, again, it's a great question. I think it's one of the reasons why I wrote this specific book. And this is actually the first of a 2-part series. So I am writing the second part to it. But it is that point. And funnily enough, I didn't mean to do it, but somebody highlighted when I published it and started marketing it, somebody said that actually you've based this on something called the peace principle. And the Peter Principle, very simply, is people, exactly as you said, they're promoted from doers to leaders, but that support isn't there for them to actually make that transition. And that's where you lose so many different people, so many different aspects. And it's important to remember that what these new leaders do at the start, that then feeds into their habits as they go through their career. The impact they start to have is that negative aspect. So I think there's a huge area whereby people that are moved into that role, they're not given the support. And I don't want to sit here and say it's the organization's fault, they haven't got that in place, because sometimes they're not aware of it. And when you see somebody that has performed so well as a doer, you're like, well, they'll just go and do it. They're fantastic at that. But it's a whole different set of skills. It's not just a job title change, it's an identity change. You're no longer just working alongside your mates, you're now managing, leading your mates, and that's a whole different ballgame.
I think there's also this reliance from management teams that, well, okay, we'll empower this person to be a leader now, go away and do the job, but not give you the resource of how to do it or go about doing that. And you talk about the iceberg theory also in the book, where you describe when people get to know their team, that there's 80% of what drives people is hidden and from
Mm,
view, understanding. Um,
mm.
if you were to ask a leader, a new leader, in the very first one-to-one, let's say, what would you ask them, or what do you think they should ask in terms of getting to grips with their roles and responsibilities, how to manage their teams effectively?
I think the question that I would ask them is quite simply, how much do you know of your team? And I think that one simple question gets them to reflect to the point where they either kind of say, I know a lot or I know nothing. But it's the response that then allows me to go closer and deeper and ask further questions. So, how can you get to know them? What can you ask to get to know them? But I think there has to be a reflection of, what do you think you know about your people? And it's that thinking which turns to assumption. And as we all know, you shouldn't assume, because it makes an ass out of you and me. I love that. That was taught to me when I was 16 years old, and I still use it to this day. But it's so true. We do make assumptions. Oh, I know Joe Blogs because they like football, therefore that's what they're like. But actually, there's so much more to people. So it would be a very simple question: what do you know about your people? That would be my starting block, definitely.
There's a word that you use continuously throughout your book. It's called consistency.
Mm,
And of course, leaders need to adapt. They've got to balance situations. They've got to balance the needs of people, systems, processes. There's a lot that they're
mm.
juggling. So, how do you juggle the two? How do you be consistent and situational?
Do you know what, Brad? That was such a moment for me in the book, because I know you're absolutely right. I was very deliberate in being, you've got to be consistent, you've got to do what you're doing, you've got to be consistent. But then I did get to the section that was about adaptability, and I think, well, hang on a minute, am I not contradicting myself by saying this? But I think for me, and I said it in the book, is that actually what you need to be is consistently adapting. And I think that's, for me, there are obviously distinguishments, but if people can see that I adapt consistently, then actually that's where the beauty comes from it. And there will be elements within the role within us where we are just consistently doing something because that's who we are, that's our makeup. But when we come to dealing with the people in front of us, everybody is unique. Everybody is unique and beautiful in their own right, and we need to be able to adapt to them. But what they want to see is that consistency and adaptation. So I adapt for you, but I don't adapt for Sally over there. And actually, that's where you start having that inconsistency, which is going to start breaking down trust, that respect that you're going to build up as you go through these elements. So it's a really key thing for me. And it did, honestly, you saying that makes me laugh internally, because I thought somebody's going to pick this up and say, how can you be consistent and adapting at the same time? But always for me, it's consistently adapting.
And can we introduce the leadership shadow approach here that you mentioned as a concept in your book? And
Mm,
what to say, how to act, what to prioritize,
yeah.
what do you measure?
Mm.
Can you talk me through the story from how is it influenced by Blanchard, for example?
Mm. I think it's the leadership shadow. To be fair, when I've researched it, the beautiful thing with it is that it's actually a concept. And when I was reading into it, it's a concept because it can't be kind of pinned to any one individual. So it's a little bit of Blanchard, it's a little bit of Covey, it's a little bit of other people. It's so many different elements that come into it. But I think the one thing that really sprung out to me, and it's been said so many times, lead by example. I played professional basketball. I've been a leader, and there's so many times you've got to lead by example. But that for me is such a broad statement, and it's so difficult to pinpoint and have accuracy to it. But when you start using the leadership shadow, you can look at those 4 sections, and actually you can really start reflecting on it and seeing what you're doing and how you're doing it. But the great thing that I try to show with people is that if you have the confidence to ask for feedback, you can actually go to people and say, look, what do you see? How do you think I measure? How do you think I communicate? Because what we see and what other people see are usually very, very different perceptions. So I think it's important for new leaders to be able to think about what they're doing and how they're doing it. I worked in a job once, and a leader, newly appointed leader, came into a team meeting, and she had basically said, right, I'm coming in to do observations on you. I'm doing this, I'm doing a whole list of things. And we as experienced trainers understand the need for observations. But what she did was, and I won't say it exactly as she said, but we questioned her as why are you doing this now? It's not happened for 2, 3 years. What's happening? And their response was, it's because I'm your effing manager and I can do that. So that cast a shadow straight away for us, is that this is your mindset, this is your attitude. So it was almost that we could do that. And you could see people's reactions. As soon as she said that, the reactions were, oh my God, that's awful. But also it was the attack back, because we could see it was a safe thing to do. We'll draft up, we'll go over the fact that 2 people handed in their resignation after that meeting. But it's so important. They need to see it to see what impact they have on others, and what that then feeds into other people as well.
It reminds me of a moment in my own career where I was after 6 months of what's the word? 6 months of induction,
Mm,
and they handed me a contract at the end of it, and I handed them a resignation at the same time.
I
Because of
like it, man.
it comes down to the psychology of the place. If you're not supported, if you're not encouraged, if you're not nurtured to grow, if you're not
Mm,
empowered to do what you came to do,
yeah.
then sometimes tough decisions come with that. But
Mm,
that I wouldn't say that to everyone. Just go and hand your resignation in because you had a bad day. Don't
no.
do that. I did that because I had many years of experience behind me doing what I do, and was stifled from doing what I should have done. Let's move on. Let's talk about when it goes wrong. Think about what the HR data is telling us in terms of that bad management exists, of course, and there are essentially experiences that are driving people to leave because of bad management. People doesn't leave a job; they leave a bad manager.
Yeah.
Is it an ongoing saying, and one that keeps floating around, especially for young workers? I think when they're starting out in their careers, and for those of us even still now, it's a bugbear for those that are experienced. But from
Mm.
what you've seen, what are the early warning signs that a new leader is beginning to lose their team's trust before it becomes a formal problem?
That's a great question. I think that the first thing I'd identify is, I think that you've obviously brought us to the point about when it goes wrong. And I think there's a difference, there's a step between when it goes wrong and we have a bad manager. The bad manager is that end result. And actually, that's when you keep doing that and reinforce those negative behaviors. But I think that, to answer your question, I think what they will see is they will see almost disengagement. They'll see the people around them not necessarily coming up to them as often as they would do, not challenging what it is that they're saying or the ideas that are being given, and equally not being challenged back. So there will always be that lack of trust potentially. And the great thing is, well, not the great thing, but if you've worked hard to get to a point and things start going wrong, is that sometimes what we do is we almost go into our shell. We almost think, oh my God, it's going wrong, it's going poorly, I just need to stop doing it. And you know what, HR, can I go back to my old job, please? That's the process that people take. And actually, what they need to do is to reflect. Reflect on what it is that has happened. Because one thing I massively believe in is the why. The why is so important. And anything in life, there is always a reason why. Always, 100% for it. And if we can understand that, then we're able to kind of move forward with it. So when things are seen, that movement away, that lack of communication, lack of trust, ask why. And if we can ask why, then hopefully we start to build that trust back up, and they will tell us. And then it's clear that it's us that's having that problem. We're doing something incorrectly. We can then look to adapt consistently and change it, do what we need to do to get to where we need to get to.
What do you think people are feeling in that moment? I mean, you talk about Tuckman's stages of project development or team development. Let's say we're
Mhm.
storming, norming, performing a journey. There's one more. But thinking about those phases that people go through, what do you think that they're feeling at that point, and why aren't they doing more to ask more? Are they doing the bare minimum?
Mm. I think it's if we're relaying it to the new leader, it's fear. in all honesty. It goes back to the very beginning that they haven't been told or shown how to ask the questions. They haven't been shown the very simple difference between open and closed questions. We all know the difference, but actually we don't necessarily associate it to those specific phrases. They haven't kind of had that opportunity to look at this forming, storming, norming, performing, because they're not actually aware of it. So I think that it's very difficult to almost expect somebody to get to that point when they don't have that training, but the feelings are going to be fear. You know, they're going to be just fearful of saying the wrong thing. We live in such a diverse world and diverse workforces that you can say something that's overheard by somebody else and that causes offense to them, which is, you know, completely right. We've got to be careful of what we're saying, but actually it's that worry of not knowing what to do. And if they don't know what to do, I can guarantee you that's going to come across to their team. You know, it's like when I train the llamas. If they can see fear in me, they know that they can take the mick. And actually, it's the same with people. You know, they'll see the fear in the manager. They'll see their apprehension, and they'll think, "Oh, they don't know what they're doing. I should have got that job. I don't know why they got it." And then that just compounds and it builds onto it even more and more. And then they do just get stuck in a rut. But the key for me is reflection. Going back to the why, find out that why, find the think and reflect, and actually you're able to move forward with it.
One thing I've always found effective and useful, and certainly something I share as a HR strategist when working with senior leaders, it works at all levels, but building a coaching culture, essentially,
Mm,
ensuring that you're asking for feedback as well as giving feedback. And
mm,
that builds trust because you're building rapport, you're building a relationship,
mm,
you're sharing perspectives and things that you're going through at that moment of time. But also, it's useful to when you're instilling ideas or starting to feed or seed new ideas into situations. So,
mm,
building that feedback loop for yourself and for others starts to bring in that culture change and mindset around trust and
mm.
psychological safety and empowering people to do their best in their jobs
Yeah,
from a HR
definitely.
perspective. Yeah. Moving on, let's talk about practical takeaways. If someone's listening to this right now and they're either about to go for their first leadership role, maybe, or maybe they've been in it for a long time and they're still learning the ropes, maybe, or want to open their minds to other concepts. And say that this person starting their role, they're 3 months in, and they're already finding it harder than they expected. What's the one thing you'd want most for them to hear?
Mm. Other than come and have a chat with me, because obviously I do great services. No, I would honestly say to them, keep going. I think that the step from doer to leader is a step that people don't always think about fully. They almost see the pay packet. So I'm going to get 10 grand, 15 grand more for doing this job. Oh, brilliant. I can go on holiday. I can do this. They don't think about the actual hard work that goes into it. And I said in the book that you've got to realize that when you are a doer, your problems were your problems and your manager's problems, your leader's problems. But when you're the leader, your problems are your problems, but person A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, you know, so on, they are your problems as well. So it's not just a case of, yes, we've got a bit more money, that's fantastic. There's responsibility, there's accountability, there's things that go with it. But what I will genuinely say is keep going. Within the book, within my training, within my coaching, what I really try to stress to people is that these tools will take effort to implement. You know, they will take time and effort to get your head around and to use. But what I can guarantee you, like genuinely, I will guarantee this, if you do it and do it well, the time that you get back far surpasses the time that you put into it. The trust that you build, the respect that you build, the confidence in yourself and others that you build is immense. And your life comes from really difficult to really easy because actually you're able to adapt consistently. Again, you can do that. You can see what's needed. So my one thing truly, honestly, keep going, you know, keep going, reflect, read the book, look at what you can do because it's not as hard as you think. You're just not used to it.
If I may, just going back a step, just thinking about the mindset shift that you reference in the book. And you're very direct in there. You say that it's more important to be respected and
Mm,
liked, and that's what I was just drawing to there a second ago. That it's that's hard for a lot of people to accept
yeah,
because people want to be liked. They feel empowered by being liked,
yeah.
and it builds a sense of security around being liked in that
Mm,
sense. That people might be more willing to do what they're asking to be done
mm,
over this friendship leadership approach, I guess.
mm.
what does it actually cost a first-time leader? And where do you think this feeling of wanting to be liked comes from?
It's being human. To be fair, I mean, as a human being, we want to be liked, we want to be loved, we want. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that love and belonging is there. So we all have that natural instinct to be drawn towards it. But I think that the kind of real key thing in terms of that likability and respectability is that I try to say to people is that if you are liked, people can take the mick. People will say, "Oh no, I don't need to do that. Brad's a nice guy. He's not going to give me any grief." But if I'm respected, then actually what people will do is there's not a fear to it, but there's an element of, okay, if I don't do it, I know that Brad will come down on me in a professional manner, but he'll hold me accountable. And actually, I need to be able to do it. But if you are going for the likable factor, what I guarantee you as well as a manager, you're going for a popularity contest. So the decisions you make aren't going to be best for the team. They're going to be best for your reputation, for your popularity. That's the reasons behind your decision making. If you make those decisions based on that principle, you're screwed, in all honesty. Because one thing I've learned throughout my life is you cannot please everybody. So I would much rather aim to be respected by everybody, which I think is a lot easier than actually be liked by everybody. So it's a key thing. And I've said it in all of my sessions, coaching, I do stress to people is that it's not about the likability factor. It's about the respectability factor. And if you try to go for the likable factor, brilliant, you'll feel great. But what I guarantee you is you're going to end up on your ass at some point.
I think there's ultimately a much wider issue here, as well as some micro and macro level issues. But thinking from a macro level issue around organizational problems, they're going through a lot of change right now. We've got shift changes in the way that we work through AI adoption. We've got expectations of employees changing because the way that they feel that they want to feel in the place of work, and be rewarded for what they do. Those expectations have changed and moved as well. I don't think organizations are keeping up with those changes. Think about even basic academic theory. It takes, 10 years to write a framework, and suddenly 10 years later,
It's all changed.
Yeah, and it's changed, but it's almost too late to adopt and adapt. I think there's an agility problem there. Certainly, L&D budgets are stretched. But enough of that. Just HR perspective. You've got a second book on the way.
Yeah.
Was the first one unfinished, or have you got more to come?
So there is even more to come. I think one of the key reasons for the books is that in my last role, I was doing a leadership program for aspiring leaders. So exactly what this book is doing. And then I did another program, which is more seasoned leaders. People have been there for 2 or 3 years. So my view is that the first one is to get you into it. It will help you to do it. And to be fair, even if you are a seasoned leader, I mean, I would genuinely say that this book will help anybody. I believe it will help in your normal life. I'm pressing my 16-year-old daughter to read it because it will help her, it will support her. But one thing that was told to me is that there wasn't, and I disagreed with it to a degree, but I was told that there wasn't enough examples in it. There wasn't enough kind of workable elements within this book, this first book, for people to kind of see. But I didn't change it because that was my writing style. But what it did do is make me reflect. And effective communication and emotional intelligence are the biggest things for me. So important. So I have a third book, which is separate to this 2 series, but I have a third book which is going to come out called 2 Ears and 1 Mouth, which is basically a narrative story. So it's a narrative story of somebody that's going into a workplace, similar to the first time leader, but it's actually using it in a workplace. So I've devised a character, a whole family, a workplace, and then that can lead on to other elements as well. And I have a 4th book that I'm currently writing to do with my behavior shift framework, but that's the story for another day. But it's funny. I've always been told, as I said, that I should write a book. I've never known what to write a book about, and now I've got 1 book out and 3 other books on the way. So you just kind of get that bug. It's almost like a tattoo. You get 1 tattoo, you feel you need more and more and more. I just feel there's a lot in my head that I need to get out to kind of people. And it's important to recognize, obviously, I'd love to be a best-selling author. I'd love to be a millionaire off the back of my book. But if I can help just one person through this book, if they can pick it up and say, actually, Ed, you know what, that's really beneficial, I'm a winner, because that's all I'm about. I just want to help and support people. And this is a great resource for people to be able to utilize to get that support.
Thank you so much for your time, Alan. You've given some real insight into what it's to be like as a first leader, the purpose and reasoning for your book. Go out there, get it, a copy if you can. It's on Amazon, I believe.
It is Amazon, yet I'm quite happy if you just spell my name in Amazon, ALLAN and Morling, it comes up with it. That's what I'm amazed with. I love it. I think it's brilliant.
I'm also thinking about publishing a book. I think there's, from a HR perspective, there's a huge psychological gap and lens in HR, human resource, around the entire build organizations, because there are so many key points we pointed out there, from individuals to business problems that do need support and do need solving. But thank you for your time. Sincerely appreciated.
Thank you very much for having me, Brad. It's been absolutely amazing to speak with you, and for you to kind of ask me these questions. So thank you so much. Really, really grateful for your time.
Thank you, Alan, for your guidance and wisdom. You can contact Alan by visiting leadershipexcellence.co.uk, spelt with an EQ, or search for Alan Morling via LinkedIn. This podcast is produced by educatingmindy.com, imparting project management expertise worldwide, and supported by dailyhr.co.uk, your HR partner for small and growing businesses in the UK. Remember to click that subscribe button to receive updates on further events and new releases, and kindly leave a review on your thoughts. Thank you for listening.